California Candle Supply recently came out with their very own avocado wax. So this wax is primarily made up of avocado, coconut, and soy waxes. So before I get into the candle making process, I just want to show you a close-up of what the wax looks like so you can see. This is a slab form and it's relatively hard. It's not super soft. If you've ever felt coconut wax, it's like really buttery soft. This has a little bit more structure to it, slightly higher melt point, if you will, but it's very similar to Soy 10. So here is what it looks like. If I try to get a piece off, I can squish it, and it's very creamy and very white in color, but I'm very used to the slab form of wax. And today we're gonna be using Mimosa from California Candle Supply. This is our Sunday brunch fragrance. And then these are the wicks that they recommended to use. These are the Premier wicks. So it is $7.35 and $7.40 on these. I'm not very familiar with the Premier wick series, but this is what they recommended. So from what I'm looking at with the directions, it seems like we're gonna treat this wax very similar to coconut wax because it requires the temperatures to be pretty hot. So it says for us to heat it up to 200 degrees and to pour in the fragrance oil to stir into the wax at around 190. So I'm gonna do the best I can. I'm gonna be working with this melting pot right here that I showed in a previous video. So it's this cool little all-in-one melter. Don't have to double boil anything. And I'm gonna be making both candles at the same time, and I'm just going to pour everything and make the two candles in here, and I'm going to show you real quick. I'll take the camera down so you can see me wick the jars. So I'm going to utilize this wick press that I've had for a long time. I'll leave the Etsy shop down in the pinned comment below. I always get questions on where we get all of our wick setting tools and wick holders, which just remembered I got to go grab a couple of those. So these are the wick holders that we use. They fit perfectly onto the 13.5 ounce Cali jars. So I'm just going to take a paper towel. I have rubbing alcohol right here, quick spray. Cleaning off the bottom just helps the wick sticker really stick to the bottom so there's no dust or debris that's going to prevent the wicks from adhering to the bottom. I've had that happen before in the past, and ever since then we always do a quick cleanup. So that's good there. I'm gonna take some of these wick stickers. Again, we get these from California Candle Supply, and just gonna take it. So first one I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna properly label these so I remember which one's which. So these are the Premier 735s. I'm gonna start with these ones first and get this all set up on here. Put it into the wicking device. So there's just these little openings right here. There we go. And then put it on top. Take the sticker off. Make sure you do that. Put it on top and then push it down, and it wicks down into the place that it needs to be. All right, so I'm gonna be doing about an 8% fragrance oil. And so I just labeled these just so I know which one's which. This one is the Premier 735 and this one's gonna be the 740. And so my formula here is just for each one of these, there's gonna be 264 grams of the avocado wax and then 22 grams of fragrance oil. So I did go ahead already and I measured out 44 grams of the Mimosa in there. And then I'm just gonna get this one wicked right here, and then we can get going. I also realized I probably should have gotten my wax heating while I was prepping these, because that would have been a better use of my time. But luckily the melter actually doesn't take that long to heat up, so I'm just gonna wick this real quick. If I have 5 minutes where I'm not doing anything, that's okay. So I'm gonna take this off, get this wicked on here. And then I'll put on the holders in just a second. I just want to get this measured out to the amount that we need. So what I'm going to do is actually measure it out in here. So this is not on yet. So it's 528 grams of wax, and I had to get a bigger scale. I couldn't use the little one. So this is the scale I'm using. I'll put it up on the screen. We get it from Amazon. So I'm gonna put that on there and tare it. and then just add in 528 grams of wax into here. Can I fit this? Yes, I can. We're at 501. Okay, so that was a little too much. We're looking for 28. I'm at 526.8, 528. 528.2, so basically almost exactly. So that's quite a bit of wax in there, as you can see. So it may take a little bit longer than usual to melt this down, but I'm gonna try to get this up to 200 degrees. So all I do to turn it on is just go from the 0 to the 1, and then I'm gonna put the lid on and let this melt down. All right, so we are at about, we're at 205 degrees, so I'm turning this off. There we go, and pouring in the fragrance oil. Let me get a stir stick over here. So we just use wooden skewers to stir it. And make sure you guys can see this whole process. So I'm gonna take the fragrance oil and pour this on in, stir it on in here. And actually I'm gonna get this in there just so I can see the temp. See where we're at. I know with this device here, this kind of all-in-one wax pouring device, this can stay hot for longer because the whole heating mechanism is attached to it. So that's something to keep in mind. But this wax does seem to work well with higher temperatures. So it did recommend to pour in the fragrance oil at 200 degrees and pour at around 190. Let me actually unplug this. So I'm gonna unplug it from the back. Ooh, careful when you do this so you don't spill any wax. All right, so it's at about 195, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pour. So what we have here is these little indicators because I'm pouring more than one candle. So I'm gonna utilize that when I'm pouring this in here, and this is really cool. It has a little spout on the side. So all I gotta do is just pour it on in, and I'm just pouring it until it gets to where the little stopper is. And then now I'm gonna pour the second candle in here. It's hard to get a good image of what you can see from my perspective, but just know that I'm just filling it up until it hits the bottom of this little stopper. So now I'm just gonna take a paper towel, try not to shake the table too much, and now it's ready to go the next time I need to use it. This is night and day better than doing the double boiler method. So now that I've poured these candles, I'm gonna wait about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then I'll go through the burn test with you and show you the results. And I'll also show you the tops of the candles too, what they look like after they're done setting. So here's the update. It's actually been a little while since I filmed that video, but I wanted to give an overview of my thoughts on the avocado wax before I actually show you the burn tests. So overall, I think this is a really great wax. It's really easy to work with, really beginner friendly because it doesn't give you any issues of like, you know, the craters on top, sinkholes, all that additional stuff. It is very, very similar to Soy 10. It has a really great cold throw and hot throw from what I've experienced so far. And honestly, overall, if you were to use something like this, I feel like it gives you a really unique angle for marketing to be able to say you use an avocado wax. Obviously, it's like an avocado wax blend, but being able to add that into marketing, I feel like gives you something different and something you don't typically see in the candle space. So real fast, I just wanted to show you what it looks like after pouring. So this right here, these little bumps of wax that you see, that is something that I used to experience with Soy 10 with Eco Wicks. And I think it just has to do with the primed coating on the wick. It's not necessarily the wax, but it's just how the wax and the wicks are interacting with each other. So I just wanted to show you that. It's not anything that is something that I would say don't use the wax. It has nothing to do with that. I just wanted to show you what it looked like before I actually took a heat gun to it. And that's all it really takes is just a heat gun, let it cool, and then you can trim the wick. So this is the Premier 735s and 740s. This is what I had used in the video. So this is after 1 hour into the first burn. And I could already tell looking at those ones, I'm like, ooh, those are burning pretty hot. And then 3 hours into the first burn, and that's when I really knew. I'm like, okay, if wicks are looking like that, flames are looking like that, and there's a depth pool like that, 3 hours into the first burn, that to me tells me it needs to be wicked down because it is just going to burn way too hot as it burns lower. So what I decided to do was I got the 725s and the 730s, and I wanted to remake them, waited another 2 weeks. I think these were actually 2 weeks and 2.5 weeks or something like that. And then I lit them. So this is after the initial lighting, and as you can see, the flames are actually pretty low, but then 4 hours into the first burn, you can see both of these. So this one was actually burning pretty good. It almost had a full melt pool, but not quite. That was the 725s. And then on the 730s, I think that one was burning a little bit more. You can see right there that there is a bit of a depth pool, but I think there was a tiny bit of hang up on the side. If not, maybe there was a full melt on that at the end of the first burn. And then this is the start of the second burn over here. Again, this is the 725s and 730s. And this is an hour and a half into the second burn. So still not quite full melt right there. As you can see, there's a little bit of hang up right there. So really at this point, I was thinking, okay, if anything, the 725s are going to burn better than the 720 or than the 730s. And even then, I think you could go a little bit smaller on the wicks and it would burn even better. Because 2.5 hours into the second burn, it is now at full melt, which is not a problem. I do see a little bit of mushrooming starting on top, which is not a huge deal. It's not like a ton, like really big mushrooming, but at the burn cycle that it's in, with it only being 2.5 hours into the second burn, that to me tells me it, it might be a little too overwicked. So I also want to show you what it looked like when blowing it out. There is a tiny little dip in the wick right there. I don't really think I would call that a sinkhole. It's more of just a little divot next to the wick. And I did notice that a little bit more with the 730s and the 725s, but I just wanted to show you. So that's the 725. Again, pretty smooth tops, no craters or anything due to the creaminess of the wax, and it's more of a wax blend. That food grade paraffin really helps to give it that creaminess, unlike straight up soy wax. And then, so here is the last slide I want to show you. So this is 4 hours into the third burn and then 4 hours into the fourth burn. And honestly, looking at them now, I can tell that I would definitely wick down. So I would either wick down or I would add in beeswax. But in this case, the fact that there are a decent amount of other sizes in the Premier series, which to be honest, this is kind of my first like real testing on the Premier wicks. I have not been as familiar with these, and it kind of makes me want to test them because you can go down all the way to like a 705, I believe. So I think it's 705, 710, 15, 20, 25, 30. And to me, the fact that these actually burn, I mean, this to me is burning too hot, but the fact that they're actually burning pretty decent at this double wicked at this size of wicks means that I think that wicking down, maybe going down to a 715 might work. Again, this is just my experience. None of this is giving you a formula at all whatsoever. This was just so you can get an idea and my first initial thoughts on this avocado wax, which I think it is definitely worth testing, especially if you like soy 10, because I think this could be a fantastic alternative to soy 10. But with that, I'm going to end today's video right here. I really hope you all enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one.